Hello and welcome to New India Junction. This is Priyanka Deo and today I am bringing you a very exclusive interview and I'll tell you why. As you guys all know, the Citizenship Amendment Bill has been approved by the Parliament. It's been passed by the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha over the past couple of days. And it has brought a lot of myths and propaganda around it as well. A lot of media frenzy, a lot of citizen activism around it as well, especially with issues in the Northeast. Now, this interview is very, very special. We have a very special guest today. It is Ms. Sangeeta Das, who is an entrepreneur that hails from Assam, and we're going to get her thoughts on the Citizenship Amendment Bill. So, Sangeeta, welcome to the show, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Priyanka. And I'm glad that you sort of, brought this to me. We actually live in a place called Duliajan, which is an oil colony, and that's where one of the senior, person from the oil, he was the CMD of oil, who was killed, and we were there at that time, and it was a mob issue, and it's very, very sad when we think about those days. And there was a lot of firing, lathi charge, a lot of stuff that happened during the agitation. A lot of people lost their lives, and I, as a child, I remember going to every little places where they held memorial services for all of the people who died. So I can completely relate to what's happening today in Assam. It pains me. I understand that the sentiments are very high on both sides. But if you really ask me, I think under the regime, or ever since Modi ji has come up, Northeast has actually been in the limelight, and for all the good reasons. There has been a lot of development, and I just hope that the progress there doesn't stop.
So let's tie it into now what's going on with the Citizenship Amendment Bill. Let's talk about some of the features of the bill. A lot of people are claiming, this whole debate around Article 14. I just wanted to get your thoughts on it. Now, Article 14 talks about the right to equality. And as a person from Assam, I just want to know your thoughts on it. So that's my question to you.
Okay. It's interesting because I'm not an authority on the Constitution. Right. So I'm just a normal citizen. And I think it's important for every one of us to read up what the act is before we actually start to interpret it in our own way. So I think, from a Constitution perspective, there isn't too much of subjectivity. It's very objective when you look at it. And what I could read of Article 14, it means that, of course, in the Constitution very clearly states that, everything is equal, so there is right to equality. However, I think there is a specific area which talks about reasonable classification. I think That's what it is.
Yep.
And under that, what I understand is, as long as it is positive and affirmative, yep, that anything that you do is acceptable, right? That's how I read it. And under that act, I guess a lot of the stuff that's being done in the name of minorities, for instance, the caste-based, reservations, yep, and special
SCs and STs,
yep, and for the minorities as well, is all done in India based on the reasonable classification. Okay. Right? So I think, important. Equality is important. However, there is obviously that reasonable classification that helps, a citizen positively. Great. If I can say that, yeah.
There were a lot of questions and a lot of opposers and a lot of, debate around CAB as well regarding religious persecution. So I also really want to get your take on that as a citizen and as someone from the Northeast, from Assam.
The Assamese Muslims are Assamese. I don't think they even call themselves Muslims. Okay. Honestly, right? So they're all our friends. Yeah. And we respect that. They respect us. We've all grown up together.
Okay.
The whole big issue in Assam is about the refugees. Right. And unfortunately, the refugees, most of them, or at least what I understood, is pretty much 99% are Muslims coming from Bangladesh.
In terms of employment, in terms of land reservations, land rights, things like that, does CAB help out?
Yeah, I'm surprised that people probably haven't read it well enough, but I did, because it clearly said that there are provisions for the Northeast, and Northeast is governed by Article 371, and that continues to remain, which means that Northeast will always have their special powers or their special provisions, or they'll always remain special.
Right.
Land rights continue to stay. Your customary laws of the Northeast continue to stay. So none of that is really impacted. That's what the law says. And I'm not sure if everybody interprets it the way I did. And I hope I am right in my interpretation.
At the beginning of this interview, I actually introduced you as an entrepreneur. So I'd like to talk a little bit about that. Now, you mentioned as well at the beginning of this interview that there has been a lot of development in the Northeast. Prime Minister has visited the Northeast over 30 times in a very short span of time. Let's talk a little bit about entrepreneurship, how you see the state going forward, just as you being an entrepreneur yourself.
It's extremely positive to see how Northeast has progressed, and Assam specifically, because I come from there. I know that there was a time when there was fear because there were a lot of terrorism issues.
When was that?
That was around, say, the whole agitation started around 80s, in the 80s. Then in the 90s, there was this whole Ulfa, and then there was the Sulfa. So I think Northeast didn't progress as much as it would have, because it's a beautiful land. I don't know if you visited, but you must if you haven't. It's really beautiful. But unfortunately, for whatever reasons, we couldn't see progress, or at least we didn't have enough large organizations or funding or FDIs going into that part of the country. That part of the country. Now, most recently, actually, we've been working with the government, because the government actually started this whole startup infrastructure in Assam, where they're encouraging all the startups. And the government has funded them, and I think a lot of these people are very happy because they're, with this whole startup, program of Modi ji. I think every state is trying to do a lot, but Northeast I can definitely see, because we've been involved in helping them put this together. And a lot of my friends from North India and us, we've actually honestly helped a lot of schools. So they've donated. So a lot of my North Indian friends, we just did like a little donation to a school, because we feel for the Northeast. And it is important that people are educated at the grassroots.
When you talk about the CAB, let's bring it back to the Citizenship Amendment Bill, now that it has been approved by Parliament. What's the way forward for the state? Do you feel that this is a good thing, especially with the violence that's going on in the Northeast right now? You're a citizen of Assam. The bill has been approved by Parliament now. What, in your opinion, is the future looking like?
So right now, of course, the sentiments on both sides are high. There's this very, very positive step that Prime Minister Narendra Modi took, which nobody else could, on the NRC. For which a lot of people lost their lives. Like I said, the whole Assam agitation was around the NRC. Right. So the NRC is complete. And I want, or not want, I'm happy that happened. And it is because he took the initiative to get it implemented, that it got implemented. And I could see that every bureaucrat, every government official was working almost 18 hours a day to complete this. Because this was something that needed to get done. And I think the entire Assam is grateful for this, because this has taken place. CAB, I would think, I am positive that we will have a positive outcome. But I think I would appeal to Modi ji once again, that you've done so much for Assam. It would be important for us to help Assam in a situation like this with the agitation that's happening. He's already done a lot, and I just hope that people recognize that. And I would like to think that this is just like at the spur, immediate reaction. It's more reactionary. Over a period of time, I think people will realize, and once they start to read up, and once they start to look back, the last 4, 5, 6 years, what has happened.
In terms of progress?
In terms of infrastructure.
Okay.
In terms of progress, in terms of all of the other things. From a development perspective, I think Assam has developed significantly, and we'd like to see that happen. And I definitely don't want to see anything burning. It's very, very sad. It's pain because I was a part of it. I sold during the agitation. I actually cleaned people's shoe to collect money so that I could give it to the the Assam Students Union, you know, so I did that. We sold what is called Tamul Pan, and I was a child then, you know, so I've gone through all of that. We've done our little bit in helping this. So now that we are on the road to progress, I would definitely want Assam to progress.
Well, thank you once again. And I guess that wraps up our NIJ exclusive interview. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you, Sangeeta, one last time. I really, really want to thank you for your time, because I do think this was a very important interview to get out. Your voice needed to be heard. For New India Junction, this is Priyanka Deo signing off.